everyone, and welcome to The Scroll, your home for all things SWC 2020. I'm Daniel Digon Gonzalez, joined once again by my fantastic casters, Make It a Bud and Stoic. Guys, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great. It's great to be back.
You guys both sound super excited to be here. You need to pick up the energy because we have a special guest in studio as well. We've got IslandGrown, who's going to give his thoughts on the America's Cup and predictions further. How's it going, brother?
I'm feeling great. It's nice to be here, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you. He's not the only special guest that we have. We also have Ulti here. He'll be chatting about the European region, Europe Cup, and Worlds coming up. Ulti, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here.
I'm glad, because we have a lot to cover. The Apac region is now complete. The preliminaries have been all finished, especially in the Chinese Taipei and the Hong Kong preliminaries. We've got our two winners there. And the European Day 3 preliminaries as we move closer and closer to Worlds. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get to it. So one of the coolest parts about doing the Scroll is that we get to have some guests in the studio, and today is no different. We have IslandGrown. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling great. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making the trip. And again, for people that don't know IslandGrown, why don't you let folks at home just know a little bit of your highlights?
I've been at the first SWC event, which was the Mobile Masters back in was that 2016, 2017? As well as I was a part of pretty much all of the different SWC events that SWC has had throughout the years. And it's been amazing, right? Being a player to being an influencer to even casting and having the opportunity. It's been awesome the last couple of years.
Right, you got to see the game evolve, and that's one of the reasons why we have you here today. Wanted to get your thoughts on specifically the America's Cup. A lot of upsets, but what stuck out to you about this year's preliminaries?
The thing that stuck out the most this year in the preliminaries was probably the amount of new names coming up, as well as an amount of names that are making it through the preliminaries and into the actual cup. It was pretty shocking to see, of course, some of the names that we know and love. You know, Thompson, we have, Fate Mem, all these players that come back year after year, and they're gone. They're done. They're not in it this year anymore.
Right, so those are some of the names that aren't in it. What is a name or two that is in it that you're excited about?
I would say two players that I'm super excited to see. As always, one of the oldies, one of the person I always root for almost every single year and makes it every single year is Tree. So I'm hoping he does pretty good. He's a buddy of mine, and I love him. So if you're listening, love you, Tree. I hope you do really, really well. And secondly, I'd like to see Raigeki make it through. And one of the fun things that you may not know is that Raigeki's profile picture is actually my best friend from back home.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so it's kind of like this new meme that they got going online, which is everybody's using his face. So people are like summoning and they're using his face. People are competing and using his face. So I think you're going to see that face throughout SWC, especially if it makes it through.
Well, that face led Raigeki to securing that first stop in America's Cup in day one itself. One thing that happens throughout every tournament are the different units that get played. And who has stuck out to you in terms of a unit or in terms of a strategy?
I would say that, a lot of the units that are here from every year, from Gani, Hathor, we're going to see them all the time.
Right.
But a unit that's, getting a lot more traction is definitely, I would say, Sierra. Especially with all the new artifacts coming in and additional damage. With the multi-hits that she provides, she's going to be a pick that you're going to see a lot. She's got that speed lead, she's got that damage, and now with additional damage for all of the multi-hits, it's insane. So we're going to see a lot of Sierra moving forward.
Right, a lot of Sierra. And then comparing that, because obviously you watch a lot, you play a lot, you've seen a little bit of the other regions. How do you feel like the America's Cup participants are going to fare compared to some of the world meta that's happening right now?
I would say that every region is kind of different. They have units that they use quite a lot more than other regions. And I mean, I've seen it throughout all of the ladder, but especially in the preliminaries that we've seen a lot of different strategies and units being used. So I think people that are in the America's Cup, I think they got to prepare. Hopefully they do their homework and hopefully they're ready. I think it's going to give them, a little bit of a shock when they start drafting and they're not used to that, that same counter draft or typical draft that they usually play.
Make It a Bud, do you have a question here for IslandGrown?
Yeah, absolutely. So having watched the America's Cup, who do you think are the two contenders that we're going to see coming out?
It's hard to say, especially with all the new names, but I mean, if I just want to go by the books and play it safe, I do got to say Tree and J-Mac. Just for the simple reason that these are two players with probably the most experience throughout all the years. They've played majority of the tournaments. They've been in there. Whether they've made it past to the Cups or even past the Cups is another story. But they have probably the most experience combined, both of those players. So I'd like to see both of them do pretty well and see how they do this year.
Very cool. And actually looking out to the other regions, are there any players that you're eyeing or you're thinking could potentially take the whole thing?
Honestly, at this point, it's anybody's game. But if I had to pick regions that were the strongest to compete, it's probably going to be the America's Cup. I think the players that we have in the America's Cup are some of the strongest players, some of the cleanest players as well. So I'm rooting for America.
Yeah, no bias, no bias.
No bias as well. Totally agree. I mean, I think we draft very cleanly, very well, very solid, and rooting for our guys here.
Stoic, how about you? Any questions here for IslandGrown?
Of course. So what was a great standout moment for you in this year's America's Cup?
I would say it was from Fate Memory. Fate Memory bringing in units that we don't typically see, like Cichlid and Blution, but on top of it, the Blution match was probably the most fun. I think it was actually picked twice. One time it was banned just because his opponent had no idea what to do against it. Second time it was let in, and it's nice to see units like that have kind of been around in Summoner's for a long time and never seen any competitive play actually in a match and actually being banned and doing really well.
Well, IslandGrown, thanks for sharing your insights with us on America's Cup, both from your experiences in the past and then utilizing that as knowledge for now. We'll definitely need that because we're going to hop into a couple of recaps of the APAC region and the European region. Is that cool?
Sweet, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So let's start with the APAC region, Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong preliminaries. Up first, Richard took care of business against Co-Count 2-0, with Mr. Chung defeating Clefairy 2-0 as well. Hong defeated Stan 2-1, and Gaia took care of business against Hao 2-0. In the semifinals of day one, Mr. Chung continued his perfect streak 2-0 against Richard, and Hong defeated Gaia 2-1, and in the finals of day one, Mr. Chung booked his ticket to the APAC Cup over Hong 2-0. On day two, Co-Count was able to defeat Clefairy 2-1, with Hao defeating Stan 2-0. Then Co-Count, continuing his win streak here, defeated Richard 2-0, with Gaia bouncing back from his semifinals loss 2-0 over Hao. And then Gaia defeating Co-Count to battle Hong in the finals and was able to get his revenge on day two, 2-1 over Hong, to also book his ticket to the APAC Cup. So guys, my question to you is, what was the biggest surprise from the Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong preliminaries, starting with you, Stoic?
Well, if you guys did not know, our first person to move forward was Mr. Chung. Mr. Chung actually competed last year. He competed under the name Donald, and Donald had actually won out his group and getting it to the Asia Pacific Cup, but he was then defeated by Judas. So Mr. Chung coming back, hopefully he's not going to be making the same mistakes he did last year.
Chris, what about you?
I also felt that just in general, the cup was a little interesting. I mean, we saw a lot of different picks that we don't see in the other regions. Someone was trying to force Tiana a lot, forcing Akia a lot. And maybe those are the reasons why they aren't moving forward. But we just saw a lot of very different meta there, where there wasn't quite a respect or balance between damage and turn order. It was just kind of picking 5 units and going with it. But at the end of the day, the strong player from last year came through and won, and experience came through. So it was an interesting cup to watch, and hopefully we see more of this moving forward.
Island, some say interesting. What do you say about this preliminary?
I gotta say, put it really nicely, but I think it was just a fiesta of mistakes. I mean, mistakes from picks and bans to even their actual plays. I think it just came down to nerves. A lot of nerves and a lot of stress and maybe a little bit of choking, right? But came down to a lot of mistakes, and it made for a very, very interesting cup. But I hope these players that made it through to the cup are going to be, reformulating their strategies and hopefully a little bit of a cleaner play moving into that cup.
All right. Now let's take a look at the European bracket. In the first match of the European bracket preliminaries, day 3, it was Pinkroyd defeating Fatarti 2-1. Then Baus defeating Blue 2-0. Rosith took down Sapin 2-0, and Sinshe defeated Zujic 2-1. Ismu took care of business against Pinkroyd 2-0. Seishizo defeated Baus 2-1, with Rosith able to defeat Unarmed 2-0, and Velipity booking his ticket to the European Cup 2-0 over Sinshe, which left us with Ismu, Seishizo, Rosith, and Velipity all qualifying for the European Cup. And for more insight on the European preliminaries, we have caster extraordinaire Ulti, who was sitting front row seat of all the action. Ulti, how's it going, man?
Going great, man. We saw a great 2 weeks coming in from the EU region, a lot of explosive matches, and it's great to see a good mixture of new faces as well as some SWC veterans making it into the Europe Cup.
That's right. You were saying earlier off camera, it was a 4-4 split. And to get there, you obviously had to have some big matches and some memorable moments. Which are some that stuck out to you?
Definitely the Baus versus Blue match from day 3 was a big moment for me because in the first game, Baus's Vertihill ended up soloing the 2 units of Blue. And a lot of the people, including the 2 casters, thought that it was done for Baus, but he actually made it back. And another highlight moment from day 3 again was Sinche going for the Tableau Pontos Lucian Katarina cleave, something you don't see every day. And then lastly, I have to say all of unarmed matches were the highlights for me because he picked a lot of great cleave teams and his play was stellar.
From what you're describing, though, it sounds like all the players are coming with a wide range of strategies, and I want to get your take on the European meta.
Similar to all the other regions, Sierra first pick was a big contested pick, and as well as Vigor was a very, very strong monster coming into the tournament. He had a very strong showing as a bruiser, and the great thing about Vigor for me is that you don't really give your strategy away by picking Vigor. You can go for a sustain team, you can go on the aggression with his skill 3. And one interesting thing about Europe Cup is that we saw some very unique picks coming in from players. Unarmed, for example, opted for the Bulldozer cleaves, couple of matches, which is not something you see all the time. We saw quite a lot of Molong play coming in and not so much Molly as opposed to other regions. And I think that was probably a good idea coming in from the player.
Yeah, it definitely was. Make it a bud. Questions here for our European expert?
Sure. I mean, having seen so many different picks, unique drafts from players, who do you think are some of the dark horses coming out of this region?
If I gotta pick a dark horse coming in from the Europe region, I gotta say it's Vilipiti. So it's his first time competing in the Europe Cup, but he's not new to the SWC scene. Actually, he's been competing in the last 3 years. But he, 2 years in a row, he was just shy of making it to the Europe Cup. Actually, in 2018 and 2019, he was our replacement player for the Cup. Sadly, or not sadly, actually happily, no one needed replacement, but he was there with us in the offline Cups as well, just he didn't get to play. So he was so close, and now I know he's out to get those players. So you gotta watch out for that guy.
Yeah, sounds like a great story, especially being so close. Stoic, what do you have for our expert?
Well, since those are some of the dark horses, who do you think are favorites to be taking the cup in EU?
That's very tough to tell right now, but I think the public is rooting for Obabo for sure. He's a big streamer. There's a lot on his shoulders going into this match, and he has his newly buffed Han, and he showed a great success with that pick. He has the beta, like the very fast turn 1 beta, surprising his opponents, and he just has great runes and a great monster box, and I would say he's one of the favorites. And the second one, I gotta go with Seishizo here. He's also pumping out a lot of YouTube content these days, and he's currently in top 10, same as Obabo. He's even going for the Legend tournament this season. I think last time I checked, he was ranked 4 in season 14. So I gotta go with those 2 picks.
Going back to Vilipiti, that's a player that really stands out to me because I actually got to meet him personally back in 2018. And again, like Alti said, he was a kind of a replacement. And I still remember the day I met him. He came up to me, didn't even say anything yet, didn't even like introduce himself. First thing he said was, "Hey, I know you have light vamp. I just got it as well." So I mean, that's something I'm never gonna forget. So going back to it, I think that if he's been watching SWC the last couple of years and he's really prepared himself, so he's definitely the player to look out for this year. But a question I have for Mr. Alti is, how do you think that the EU Cup and the EU players are gonna go up and compare against some of the other regions?
I think this year, for sure, we're gonna see a great showing from EU. You've seen it in their drafts. The pick and ban phases were very smart from all of these players. And you also saw their decision-making within the matches really improve over the years. And we see 2 players currently standing in the top 10 of season 14. So I think the other regions gotta watch out for these European players.
I love these cross-regional interviews just because we bring in Island. Island's like, yeah, you know what? America drafts so well. Everyone's really smart. Their box is huge. And then we bring in Ulti. Ulti's like, yeah, you know, the drafts are great. They're very smart. I think Europe's going to take it. Do you feel like Europe has the best chance of winning here, Ulti?
Yeah, I gotta believe in my region. I'm saying Europe has got it. I believe in our players.
Of course you do. There's no other answer. That had to be the answer. Hey, Ulti, thank you so much for joining us today on The Scroll.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that does it for this episode of The Scroll. It's the final episode that we're covering the preliminaries because they're all done. All that's left are the cups, including America's Cup, which will be on October 24th. And with that are coming the player profiles. They will all be uploaded on the Summoners War Esports YouTube channel. You don't want to miss it to get an up-close and personal view at the participants of the America's Cup. IslandGrown, thank you so much for coming on again, making time and sharing your expertise with us.
It's great. Good to be here, and I'm super excited to see how this tournament plays out.
Yeah, definitely very exciting. Again, October 24th, you don't want to miss it. Make it a bud. Stoic, any final words before we close out here?
Not much. Just looking forward to seeing more matches. Looking forward to see what else happens in this tournament.
Definitely looking forward to the tournament. Looking forward to the brackets. Just looking forward to more matches in this year's SWC.
And I'm looking forward to the repeat battle function, which thankfully IslandGrown showed me. I was just manually plugging away at it. Make sure you guys utilize that. Also open your scrolls and get yourself some Street Fighter units. I just picked up Water Bison today, right now, just now. You guys have the opportunity to do that as well. All right, everyone, that does it for The Scroll. On behalf of myself, Island, the casters, and the entire crew, we appreciate you, and we'll catch you at America's Cup.